Hello, I am Chris Gazdick, a mental health and substance abuse therapist. You are back, Mr. Adam Cloninger. Actually, what are you?
What am I?
Yeah, I'm a substance abuse and mental health therapist.
My new job title is industrial engineer.
An industrial engineer.
As of June, yes.
All right, congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
new gig publicly there. Had that book out, Rediscovering Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self, and we welcome you to Through a Therapist's Eyes, where we like to say you get personal insights from a therapist in your own home or personal time in your car. See the world through the lens of therapists, but they need to be aware it's not delivery of therapy services in any way, right?
Right.
And 5 stars on Apple. Leave a review on Apple. Follow us on Spotify. These things are huge. They really do make us grow. They help us a lot. If you've already done some of those, get a friend to do it. You know, the 5-star reviews, anything that you type on Apple iTunes, it's a huge help. Also, follow us on our email list. We're starting to kind of get back to doing some interactions with that. You've got YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, and the Facebook group. So, join us with those things and follow along. And, of course, contact at throughatherapist'seyes.com where we interact with you. This is the human experience, the human emotional experience. Do you remember what we endeavor to do? Test time. He's an old pro now. This is the 3rd round of Adam Cloninger.
What we endeavored to do.
Figure this thing out
Yeah.
together.
Okay.
Oh, come on, man.
Well, I remembered that, but I didn't know what the question was. I'm like, yes, I remember you saying that. Sorry, man. I'm
He's
not with
going to
it.
kill me after the show.
I'm not. I didn't know you were getting that. Sorry.
My bad. I had to put you on the spot. All right, I got a current event that I want to cover before we jump into the topic. Is going to be how does money affect our mental health? And I thought that was a cool topic, really though, because there's a lot going on in the holiday season. People get really stressed out about it. There's a lot of things that people are trying to do,
Like not having enough money or
really,
how much should I spend?
Money is emotional, and there's so many experiences that people have. Guilt, shame, envy, fear are the big ones that we're going to kind of touch base on. But I got a current event.
Okay.
The current event is I play the illustrious, the loser, Neil in fantasy football this week, baby.
So next week, one of y'all is going to have bragging rights.
He's going for the mic. He's not even going for the mic. He has nothing to say. Yes, we have a competition. That's not really the current event. But I do play Neil Robinson in the Fantasy Football League. He joined us this year. And I must say, Neil, you're doing really good, but you got to go down this week. No, the current event is football related as well. I thought it was really pretty cool. There's actually a player on my team. I'm going to pull him up in live so I can tell you exactly who it is, so you know I'm not lying. I was confused about this for a while. This player that's on my team, he is been on injured reserve. For those of you that don't know what IR is, you're allowed to be on IR for a few weeks in the NFL now, but he's been on IR like forever. But this is an NFI IR, non-football NFR, sorry, NFR IR, non-football related injured reserve list. And I didn't know what the heck that was for the longest time. It's so new.
Like he fell down the stairs and going on an airplane or something? Or
I mean, it could have been anything, right? Yeah. But I think what's happening is, as we know with the Olympic star, what was her name? Anyway, I forget. The gymnast who, did not compete because of mental health reasons. Mm-hmm. And so my Pittsburgh Steelers have stepped on to it. And I got the article on Steer Curtain to prove the point that he's been out forever as well, and I think he's unfortunately not going to come back. Now, as a Steeler fan, that's killing us because our defense is really struggling, and we need that guy back on the defensive line. But the therapist part of me is kind of like, there's some things way more important. Of course, the mental health of players is more important than the game. But that is so hard as a fan to recognize, to honor, and to justify. He lost his brother. So his brother died in a tragic car accident, and he just can't play football. It's not on his mind. He can't function with it.
Right.
And so he's a very big member of our team that I think is not going to be with us this year. All of these things, and the major point is, I didn't even know what non-football related injuries meant. Mental health is becoming real. It's a real factor, and it's being prioritized, and I'm in support of that. I mean, that's a big deal, and I'm always in tune to the current events, so I think that's kind of neat. They're holding their mental health a priority, and literally, holding that over a priority, something like, the glorious experience of sports at professional level and whatnot. I think that's just neat. I think it speaks to a lot of what we're starting to really value, mental health, right?
Sounds cool.
Yeah, I think it is. So let's get to it. We're going to talk about money today. Money. When I told you that on the phone, what'd you think? I'm curious if you did. If you
that'd
had
be cool. There's always
anything.
all kinds of stuff like that comes to mind.
Okay, so that's what you responded with on the phone. But I wondered, it's such an emotional issue, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Money is incredibly emotional. And so, I like to do definitions and stuff, but we don't need a definition of money. But, what I really wanted to focus on in that regard is what money means to people. Like, to me, how can we define what money means? Because that dictates the entire conversation when you're having about money, right? Mm-hmm. Which is something that people don't even want to talk about. Like, this is a topic, you're supposed to keep it private, right? You don't want to talk about, you tell people, don't.
Some people would freak out on that stuff.
Bizarre freak out. Bad freakouts. Because it's so emotional. So if we look at that, what does money mean? I think I'm going to hit you cold with that. What does money mean to you if you'd be willing to go there?
Or you use it for all kinds of survival stuff. I mean, you got to have your house payment, your car payment, insurance payment, for your water, your power, everything.
Right.
Food.
So it means emotionally what to you?
Emotionally, I don't really get it as far as emotional, other than I can understand how some people get stressed out about it. I mean, obviously there's things that I think a majority of people could relate to. Like, there's things you'd like to buy, you're like, I can't buy that.
I think you're experiencing what I experienced when I was asked something. I think a show or two or three ago, I talked about, I was asked, what does this particular topic mean to you? And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I never really thought about the emotions that I feel and what that evokes in me when that topic was brought to me.
I mean, I can see getting stressed out about it. I mean, there's been times before in my past that trying to pay a bill and you don't have the money for it.
Right.
That's gonna be stressful.
It's terrifying, to use a word at some point.
I've been there, and I think a lot of people have.
I think we all have. I think that's a thing that this show might be tuned into a lot like our shame show, because we all experience these things. I mean, it is a pretty universal reality that we experience varied emotions and intense emotions when we talk about money. Is that something that I think I could say? Mm-hmm. I think I can make that statement. This cool Psych Central article played out. I thought it was interesting. They just said power, love, joy, and much more. That's what people experience.
Like their definition of?
In short, they say that's what people might take as the meaning of money.
Okay.
But if I observed that and I thought, okay, power, love, money, and much more, and joy. Those are the positive aspects. You can feel powerful. You can feel joyful when you have it. It's
love.
Love. The
love of money.
Money can mean love, meaning I'm secure and I can express my love to you and appreciation. I mean, buying flowers and being able to buy you gifts, and particularly those people that have the love language of gift giving. But those are all positive, and I feel like that there's an avoidance of the real stressful realities of what.
Well, I would use stress. That'd be one I would put in there.
Why would you stress?
I mean, I would use that for another word. I'd put stress.
As far as what money can mean.
Power, love, joy, stress.
Right.
I mean,
I think so. I think there are, various, points of, we'll get to the primary things that I think that, money can equate to. But they pointed out a connection that we have, that money starts when we're really small. And they actually had some really cool questions that I want to go ahead and cite just to get us to thinking about what money means to us, because it's probably, my guess is, people haven't really thought about it. People don't really ponder, what it means to you. And these are provocative kind of questions to get your brain moving. So, do thoughts of money bring up feelings of worry, guilt, anger, sadness, power, love, or joy? Just thoughts of money. What emotions kind of rise to the surface? I didn't go that far with you, but we could have. All right. Did your parents fight about money?
Mm-hmm. I see.
Okay. use money to control you or one another. It's about a level of control that comes into that. Or use money to show love, like we were just talking about. Showering you with gifts. Divorced families. Go to the parent that's not the primary caretaking parent. We used to have this phrase, Disney dad, right? You remember that expression?
Is that like they're going to take you to Disney World?
Right.
But
none of the regular day-to-day life dads didn't get to do in the 80s when you're divorced, or 90s. I think that was more along those lines then. Do you feel grateful for the money that you've earned or acquired? So a sense of gratitude. How do you decide how or when to spend it? That has a lot of emotions inside of that. Do you give a portion of your earnings back to your church or your community? What about giving? You're going to give money away. What emotions does that evoke? What comes up with that? Right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that move around. There's a lot of positive things, but I think honestly, a lot of negative things that people end up getting leaned towards focusing on when they try to do budgeting or talk about money even. What's your resource allocation? Those are private conversations, right? There's emotion that comes up. That's why people sort of suppress and compartmentalize this area of their life and make it mysterious. We don't want to let our kids know what the house budget is. Mm-hmm. Don't tell them how much we spent on Christmas. Why give them the tag? When you give a gift, you got to scratch the money part out, right? There's all these things. It's so profound, I feel like. I'd have other life experiences than just the stuff that we get when we're children. So if you think about money, the article said, you look a lot at your early childhood experiences, and that drives a lot of your beliefs. I would disagree with that. If you understand the way a whole life course progresses, the experiences that you have all throughout your life, when you're getting married, what's the budget? How do you experience that? When you have a kid, I've told the story of doing calculations of formula and diapers and how much this was going to cost in real terms when I was an expecting dad,
I mean, you needed additional stress.
Absolutely. Bankruptcies that you might go through, or actually having something repoed. Those are big experiences in life that I'm going to maintain just as much as your childhood drive the way that you experience money, right? There's a layering effect. And when you get big adult experiences like any of those, can totally change it. So it changes on a dime. I mean, this is just such a loaded kind of concept, I feel like. So I think it's really important that we understand the meaning of money. What is your brain doing as I kick around those questions the article had, comments about how we develop the meaning? Have you ever really thought about?
You went through a couple of these little question things, and when you mentioned like worry, guilt, anger, sadness, I'm thinking about different examples of why somebody could feel any of those.
Right.
That's kind of things I was thinking about. I can relate to somebody being angry. Not getting paid enough.
Absolutely.
Or mad that your wife spent too much money on something.
Marital conflicts.
You spent how much on that? The pocketbook was $600, something like that.
What were we talking about, actually, Adam? You used that as an example.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier.
It
was the example about people freaking out over depending on what people's paradigm was to what matters to them and what doesn't. And the example I think I was given was...
why'd you spend that much money on shoes? I
think
it was something.
Yeah, it was something like it. People had something to do with somebody freaking out where didn't want anybody to know how much a car payment was. Don't tell the kids how much the car payment was. Well,
yeah.
How they gonna know how money works?
Exactly.
I mean, you got to kind of give them a clue. Maybe not have to tell them exactly how much something is, but you got to give them a clue about. They need to know more than money comes out of an ATM.
Right.
There's a lot more to it than that.
It's an interesting point that you just bring up there. I do work with teenagers in counseling experiences, and the naivete that they have is really profound. Like, they really don't understand the basics of what all these things cost with toothpaste and dish detergent and it's like magical to them. I literally remember toothpaste was one that I was a kid. Like we just always had toothpaste, and I remember as an adult
I have to buy this now.
becoming independent. Yeah, like it was like, wow, that I just bought toothpaste. Like, where did this come from? How did this happen? But as a kid, that naivete, and we just had a conversation in our household about rent, and kid's older now, and he's got to contribute in different things, and we literally went through our whole budget, and he's like, oh, I guess I need to make more money. And I actually consider him to be pretty aware. He's pretty down to earth and aware of the cost of things, and does really
Younger
well.
people, they don't think about certain things. I mean, they don't think about taxes and Social Security and insurance,
medical, and that nice car that you want to get.
Yeah, planning for the future and
retirement. Good Lord. How many people have long-term nursing care insurance? You ever hear of that even? That's a thing. And a lot of people don't even know it's a thing. So, because we avoid the topic. Here's a little bit of a takeaway that occurs to me in our conversation. Do we not need to avoid avoidance when it comes to money?
Avoid avoidance when it comes to money. Avoidance. Is that a double negative?
I could say it better than that.
Is that a double negative?
Neil's like going to write something down. He's going to edit it. Yeah, be careful about the avoidance with money. Be very, very wary, because that creates all kinds of trouble. Marital couples won't talk about it. Parenting relationships don't talk about it. Business partners. Oh, I actually raised a money issue in a business relationship years back. The person was offended. I'm like, I was just asking a question. I really didn't mean anything about it. We were just learning the company and how we were going to work.
It is a business.
It's a business, yeah. And it definitely took him quite a bit aback. And buddy, if you ever listen to this, I apologize, man. I didn't mean anything by that question. He may listen to this at some point and be like, oh, I remember that. And still, even to this day, might hold a resentment about that. That's crazy.
Well, just you mentioning it makes me know that it bothered you, because you weren't expecting that response.
It surprised me.
It surprised you, so
it surprised me greatly. Yeah, because it was actually similar to you asking how much did you spend on those shoes or whatever that example was that you used. Because I just wasn't there. And here's a really interesting and important point. On the same emotional meaning level with evidently him at that time. And we're going in totally different directions with what we took from that conversation. Boy, how many times does that happen in a marriage?
All the time.
God, how much pain is brought on by, and we're going to talk about that with Dave Ramsey. I got to stop rambling because we need to get there.
Yeah.
But the emotional pain and anguish that occurs when married couples are trying to have financial conversations, they just simply oftentimes don't. And one person just takes over the bills. That's kind of, unfortunately, a lot of times what happens. So be very wary about the avoidance tendencies that you might have as it relates to money. That's a statement I'm going to make. Or a warning, actually, that I might make. Okay, where are we at? Okay.
I think you're on C.
C? Yeah. The negatives. Okay, the next thing, what is this? Interesting things happen when people get windfalls. Oh, okay. That's just another part. I did want to spend a little bit of time on, the meaning here, because it sets up everything. Ask yourself the question. Here's a survey thing we could put out, Neil, maybe. How many people have thought about what money means to you? Maybe we'll get a post about that, because I think that gets people to really begin thinking, what does it mean to me? And another example of that is when people get windfalls. I actually carried this myth. In this show prep, I blew up a myth and a stereotype about lotteries and winners of big money. Have you ever heard this before? Like, what happens to people that win a lottery financially?
Well, I mean, just based on the show,
right?
They lose it all, but I'm sure that's not always the case.
It isn't the case.
No.
Yeah, it's not, and I was very surprised by that. What do you mean the show? I don't know what you mean by
There's
that.
a lottery winner, or I don't know what it's called. There's like a thing that shows these people they win $150 million,
Right.
and 5 years later
Bankrupt.
they're like working at Hardee's or something.
Evidently, with smaller amounts, that is the case. About 100, 200, 400,000, maybe $500,000. It just gets blown. I mean, people just absolutely, hands down, generally will just blow that.
But again, who are we to say how they spend it?
Well, I mean,
Maybe they have.
Yeah, I get that. Well, there's a personal choice. I get that. There's a value there.
I mean, at the very beginning, they might have said, I can either save this or I can just blow it. I'm gonna blow it.
Yeah.
They might do that.
And do we have to judge that or have a value in
Nope.
that? I think I just fell into the trap of like, well, yeah, why would you just blow it all? But again, the people that get like, millions, those $50 million winners or even 5 or 10, generally they begin to invest and they don't lose their money. They actually have investments and get things together. However, they get wickedly stressed because people are coming to them and asking them, the relationship turmoil that occurs. I see this in therapy in the way of inheritances. When you get your inheritance, families go crazy when somebody dies and pick out grandma's jewelry. I wanted that jewelry. Well, I wanted the family gun that's been in the family. No, I want the cow. I mean, it's, oh my God. People degenerate into bizarre states.
Oh yeah.
Emotionally when that's going on. But here's the thing about that.
Not looking forward to that at all.
I'm not either. I haven't experienced a lot of that yet. But an overwhelming across the line when people come into windfalls, studies have very much found, very recent studies, and I have them quoted on here, happiness stays the same, generally. Doesn't go up, doesn't go down. There's seems to be and maybe it's an average, there's very minimal effect on, geez, if I win the lottery, everything's going to be wonderful. I'll have no stress and everything will be paid for. It'll be just a dream. No, it doesn't work out that way. Your happiness does not get this.
I'm willing to try it.
Do you doubt this notion? Go ahead.
I'm willing to try it.
Doubt.
I can see you always have some type of stress. Think about it. Say you won $500 million.
Right.
First thing, how do I protect my family?
Yep. Okay.
There's going to be people coming out and trying to take advantage of them or kidnap them or anything can happen.
Good. That's stressful.
You got to worry about somebody breaking in your house now because they think you can have good stuff.
Right.
Do you have to move?
Oh, gosh.
Do you have to go to another state?
Boy, you're thinking of some serious things.
Well, I've thought about the lottery a couple times.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think on some of those levels that you wouldn't ever have enter into your world of, stress. I was thinking on some of the level of just, what was I thinking? Well, taxes and, I don't know. I kind of lost some of the things I was thinking when I was doing my show prep, but there's a counterbalance, and you're doing a much better job of me right now than pointing out some of the things that you begin to consider that you never really had to worry about. You never really had to really even put any energy towards, and now, boom, all of a sudden, you got all these things that are kind of popping on.
And plus, you got to think about this. If you got that much money, it's one thing if you have $100 and lose $20.
Yeah.
If you got $100,000, you lose $20,000. $20,000 is a lot of money, man.
Yeah. Particularly when you're not used to having that.
Right.
But somebody that's got a lot of
So
money.
I can imagine
the
thought of losing money, a larger amount of money would be stressful. Even if it's the same percentage of what you used to have.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to categorize that, because I think people get real flippant. Honestly, it occurs to me, I wonder about this. So here's a real-time thought. So we started off this segment of looking at what does money mean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you don't really know what money means to you, and then boom, all of a sudden you get a lot of it, I would submit to you that you are completely caught flat-footed. Like, you don't really even know how to process this.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I think I just experienced that when you put that out there, percentage-wise, what you're used to losing, and you lose this money, but yet you've got $80,000 other. I don't even know. I'm just caught flat-footed. I wouldn't even know how to compute that. Would I be upset, or would I just be like, I don't even know, because I don't think we're in tune with our emotions very well when it comes to this topic. I think we just really like to avoid it.
I'm thinking about taxes too.
Absolutely. People get crushed with that.
I got to pay how much in taxes?
About 3/4 of it.
Yeah, so.
Literally. Okay. So let's go on with the next little segment that are the major areas of what generally happens with emotions, right? Shame, guilt, envy, and fear. These are some major things that people get into. I feel like the major emotions that really begin to...
So here's the negative things you're talking about now.
Well, I didn't mean to make it negative, but again, when we're talking about what money means, okay, what was it? Power, love,
joy. You said that was positive. Now we're talking about
those
negative
are
things.
positive things. Well, but that's not where my mind goes
Mm-hmm.
when I see the mental health concerns or the mental health issues when it comes to money. It does go to these other ones, and I think they're far bigger and far more prominent when people are processing issues that involve money. Shame, guilt, envy, and fear. I think they come up for people. I'd be curious if we do get a survey out there, if people would agree or disagree with the idea of those are really things that I feel. So here's another thing that the article pointed out that I thought was cool. You say, I don't feel shameful about money. Look, we just did a show on shame-based feelings, and I think it is profoundly common, universal, man, women, and child that we naturally feel. Okay? We made a convincing argument of that a couple shows back. Tune that one in and soak that in, and maybe come back to this segment and look at these questions to see if you really feel shame-based feelings. First of all, shame, okay, is... I believe the biggest factor, and we talked about this on the show, I've done something wrong, right? Or something that's unprincipled, or something that's dishonorable. That's the definition. That's what shame is. Now, again, I think a lot of listeners are thinking, oh, I don't feel shameful about what I have. I earned it. It's my money. I can spend it the way I want. Look at these questions. I've avoided thinking about finances. That indicates shame-based feelings, right? I don't have enough money. How many people have thought that? That actually touches on shame-based feelings. I've avoided doing what I'm supposed to do about finances, period, right? Like creating a safety net or paying for retirement, some of the sensible budgeting things that you mentioned a little bit ago, right? Well, I've avoided doing that. Even the idea of avoiding a conversation, like we said. That indicates shame. I don't think people think of it that way. I'm really ignorant about all of this. I'm not really money wise. I'm not money conscious. Another one, I spend too much money. I know I've spent too much. That's a shame-based statement. I shouldn't have spent that much money on this Thanksgiving meal.
I spent too much on my truck I just bought. I did.
Yeah, right?
I did.
That's a shame-based feeling. I buy stuff when I'm unhappy. That's obviously, a negative thought that you have about yourself and what you've done. I think shame is prevalent with money. Does that sound crazy?
No.
Am I convincing you're getting you to think about how profoundly and often people very much likely feel shame when it comes to their very own hard-earned dollar?
No, I can relate to that. And to me, a lot of that, what you're saying is almost fear instead of shame.
Okay, why do you say that?
Well, I mean, you've avoided doing what you're supposed to do about finances. Well, you kind of fear that you don't have the things you don't have the resources to do what you need to do. So you kind of avoided it because you're fearful you don't have that.
Oh, you're kind of saying maybe people avoided Chris more because of fear
Yeah.
of the topic rather than shame.
That's what I think of.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, there's probably a combined
It
effort
is.
or a combined component there. But if you think about, I thought those questions were cool, and the reason why I added them, included them in the show, is because I don't think that people, and we talked about this in a deep dive on shame. You know, matter of fact, I created the concept. I don't know if I created it, but I haven't heard people talk about shame attacks.
What was the whole title of that show?
Neil, was it just Shame Sucks?
Okay, I was
Yeah,
because
it
I
was
saw Shame Sucks. I didn't know if
That
I
was
should-
the one.
I was thinking that's what it was. Okay.
Right? And shame attacks is something that I think people feel intently. I mean, when you feel really bad about something, you know, like bringing money up and somebody was struggling with money and it came out and you just felt horrible about that. That's like a full-blown shame attack. Meaning a hard feeling with that sense that you just had.
I just started a new job making good money. How about you?
Right.
I just got laid off. Oh, sorry.
There's a lot of burden in being wealthy. Honestly, wealthy people generally are not happy. I think I don't want to make that a total statement, but I think there's a lot of truth to that, and it's because they have a lot of stuff that other people don't have, and I think they know it. Famous people struggle being famous.
Would you say wealthy people have more issues than poor
Yeah.
people? Really?
Yeah. Look-
Again, I'm willing to try.
Look, I know, right? I can't quote the studies, but I think that I've kind of seen the studies, and you know, our show's international, and so we have a lot of weird. I thought about this actually. I'm glad it came back to me. I don't have a prepared segment for this, but off the cuff, I wish I were a cultural expert because I think that the cultural perspective on money is very, very different around the world, right?
Okay.
I think that I have seen studies and people talk about the concept that really in third world countries, I mean, I'm talking dirt floors, struggling places where financial resources are more than limited. They just don't have any. You know, Haiti after the hurricanes, then, you know, places in Africa with just villages in the Amazon. Their mental health happiness, now that you can't see me off the cameras, high, way, way up there because they're with their families. Life is simple. They're enjoying their activities. They have a tribe. They're together. They're with a group. They're connected. They're not alone.
They're not on their phone.
They're not on their phone. Technology, anxiety. We've done a show on that, on how that brings around a lot of stress. I mean, you know, first world problems is a joke, we say, right? You know, we have first world problems. They're so simple. They're not that big of a deal. Well, they stress us out, and we're literally losing sleep over this stuff. Yeah. The holidays, people get so over when they're done. They're just like, oh, thank God we got through all of that. And there's a lot of joy out there, and I'm not stamping on anybody's happiness with Christmas and whatever. I enjoy the holidays for various reasons. But, you know, isn't it nice when it's all said and done? When it's all over?
Yeah.
Because you get so strained and stressed out, and there's so much pressure. You got to get the gift, wrap the gift, make sure it's a nice enough gift. Is the person going to like what I got them? There's angst. Oh, they're opening the present. Oh, I hope they like this. You know, it's a great feeling when somebody opens up a present and they're like, oh, wow. And they light up. You know, we're after that feeling, but we're chasing it and fearful that we might not get it. I have a story, I'm sure, that was murderous for my family. How are we doing on time? I don't want to diverge too far. Yeah, we're good. So when I was a little kid, Mom, I love you, and it's all good now. But I was so excited as a kid, and I'm sure this had to be horribly deflating for, you know, my mom particularly, because it was a single parent household at the time, and that's got to be terrible when you don't have financial resources. And we struggled when we were kids, for sure. So I wanted the Millennium Falcon.
I know where he's going.
Oh man, I mean, I was all over this. We had my Star Wars stuff, and My neighborhood friend Ben played with me, and it was great. But I didn't have the Millennium Falcon, big ship, that do all the figures. And I opened up all the family gifts. That's what we do at Christmas Eve-ish. Nothing. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm sure Santa, that's the big day. You get the big gifts then. So I'm opening up every present, and it's like one after the other. And there was a couple of bigger boxes, and I thought, surely got all through them, and there was nothing. Oh, I was deflated. Well, but Grandma was coming, so okay.
Maybe she's bringing it.
It must have been Grandma. And in that particular year, I always remember this particular gift, and I can think back as a childhood possession that I had. I loved the possession, but it was the very last gift of the year. I'm opening up this big box. Paper comes off, the box comes out, and it's a coat. Dramatic silence. I'm sure my head just dipped. It was the horriblest experience for them because I was so disappointed. It was a white coat with blue linings on the side of it. I remember that coat like yesterday.
Did you ever get a...
Did I ever get the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah.
You're catching me. I think I did. And even the fact that I'm struggling to totally remember right now. We had a Millennium Falcon, but I feel like that was Ben's. I feel like Ben got the Millennium Falcon. I'm not sure.
This explains a lot about you.
The Death Star fire pit that we were talking about.
Therefore, Chris decided to help people from that point on.
That's the turning moment of my very whole life. But getting back to the point of that story is there's so much emotion in that. My excitement, my disappointment, my mom who must have been crushed, my grandma who she may not even have realized, honestly, but there's so much wrapped up in all of those, Christmas morning events that we go through. So we're going to get to the end of how to manage this, right? And get through some of these money struggles and challenges that we have. But let's look at guilt real quick. Guilt defined really kind of, I have a negative impact on others. Okay. I made the point, again, going back to the wealthy people. I feel like when you're really in wealth, you have almost, I would imagine, a universal experience of this. Like, because you try to get philanthropic. What is that word? Philanthropic? Save me.
We know what you mean, but I don't know.
Philanthropic? He's going for the mic. He's going to help me out. Philanthropic.
Philanthropic?
Philanthropic. Say that again?
Philanthropic?
Yes. It's a vocabulary day today. That was tough. Can you say the word? Now you got to try.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
I've embarrassed myself.
No.
You're not even.
I can't spell it. I know that.
I know I can't do that either. You might try to give your money away. You might try to get involved in charities, and you try to do those things, and they feel great. But when you have a whole lot of wealth, the struggle is I can't do enough. I think people, when they really get down to it, in their private moments, I don't think you'd ever know it. I don't think they ever show it. I think it's avoided. But I think that's a universal, kind of experience with people that do have money.
Can y'all do like a survey thing at your end of your thing? I mean, I would be really curious to see how people think about it when you say that rich people have more stress than poor people. I'd be really interested to see how many people agree with that and don't agree with that.
Particularly wealthy people. And will they be honest with us about it, right?
So it should be two questions.
Okay.
Are you wealthy? And do you have more stress? Because, if you think about it, you got to know. You got to know because the wealthy people might say, oh, yeah, I'm stressed out. And then the people who are poor would be like, oh, I'm stressed out if I had money. I don't know.
I tell you how skewed this is, though, man. So when you say that, I have a return question for you. How many people will define themselves as upper middle class?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard anyone say, and I'll use those permanency words, I don't like those kind of words. Mm-hmm. Everybody, never, ever. Have you ever heard anyone describe themselves as upper middle class?
No.
Right? It just doesn't get said, because people don't want, it's like.
But then, too, I've never heard anybody refer to himself as upper class or low class either. So
Right. Well, isn't that interesting? Right? It's what are you? Where are you in your financial resources? It's such a taboo thing. And I think we just stomped on some feelings and made people feel very uncomfortable, quite possibly listening to that. Who's going to describe themselves as, oh, yes, I'm in the lower class? That's me. Gotcha. But they will say, I am struggling. I am poor. You know, I come from a poor family. I will hear that. I will hear people say, I come from a wealthy family. You know, I'm actually thinking of a person that I'm working with that might make that has made that statement and suggestion. Caused emotional issues, though, I'll tell you. But upper middle class, never heard it. You know, so I think we can go to the extremes a little easier than when I say like I'm upper in middle class than you are. It's avoided. It is not talked about. It's shameful. People get shamed. Let's move on though.
Okay.
Envy, great unhappiness is the definition. I don't really even think this requires any convincing or discussion. I think we all have it, and we all wish we were wealthier and want more money. And isn't that a huge part of the emotional experience with money? Again, we're going to spend a little bit of time on what do we do to manage this? How do we get out of these emotional spots that we get into? So I don't know. Does anything else need to be said there? Would anybody deny that they have envy about money?
I gotta say, I know we're running on short on time, but I gotta say this. What's crazy about this on this envy, like you said here, people want envy. They want to be healthy. I mean, be wealthier.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you just mentioned that the wealthier people have more stress.
Yeah.
So,
or it doesn't affect happiness. At the minimum, we can definitely say it doesn't increase happiness.
I just think it's interesting.
That is pretty. I think that's pretty well accepted.
So they're envious to have something that may cause them more stress.
Ironic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
Ironic. I'm glad you paused us there. Can we reframe that a little bit? Part of the answer that we'll get to, I think, when I brainstormed that, is gratitude. Can we say maybe that gratitude is an antidote to money stress? I like thinking about things along those lines, and I feel like that's a good statement. You know, if you're really grateful for just what you have, I mean, you've met people like that. I mean, they're humble. They're really grateful for, you know, the home that I have, the things that I have. I'm happy with what I have, and their spirit is at ease. They are at a place of peace, and honestly, to use an even bigger word, serenity. You know, it's serene to be grateful. Envy, God, that's so prickly.
Mm-hmm.
That hits people hard, I think. Last one of the big four I feel is fear. That's a play on words. And I wrote maybe the greatest of the emotional realities. I don't know if shame is bigger, or originally when I was writing this, yeah, I may have agreed with you, Adam, that fear is a big part of, you know, a biggest or a bigger part of it. You know, and
I agree. I think fear is the biggest.
You think that's the biggest? Yeah, I have a big debate in my head, particularly even having this conversation. Shame, I'm telling you, shame is so big. It is what makes us avoid it and don't even talk about it. Fear, we might even clamor in fear about, you know, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I need to get money, and I got to get this, and this is happening, and my car broke down, and I got to get, you know, when you're feeling shameful, it is so nasty, internal, and stuck and alone. So I don't know, but I may or may not agree with you. I said that I did on the sheet, right? On the show notes. So even when you have resources, they never seem to be enough. And the big question there is, what really is enough money? And I'm not going to spend any time with it, but for thought in the car, if you want to push pause and really think about that, is a really, really good question to ask yourself. What is enough money? Okay. We're going to move on, but ponder that maybe a little bit. Should I skip this section or go with it? I love that movie. Money Can't Buy Me Love. Did you see that movie when we were kids?
I don't think I'm familiar with that movie.
You never saw that movie?
No, I may have, but I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's a dude on a little lawnmower. He's a geeky kid, and he money. can't buy me love. He had this crush on the big cheerleader girl in high school, and it was about him kind of growing individually and maturing and kind of finding himself. And he got crushed by the loss of the girlfriend, and then they got back together at the end of the movie because they always do, and they were in love by basically accepting each other rather than money can't do that. And the question I have, and it's a healthy question to ask, I feel like, is what can money do for you? I think you were kind of going on the top of the show for that. Provide provision of funds and needs and, this type of a thing. I don't know if I want to spend time on this either, but it's kind of another good question if we wanted to spend time with it. I'm going to let you decide, Adam.
I'm looking what else you want to
Emotionally speaking, not productively or tangibly speaking, emotionally, you decide if we want to spend any time on this or move on. What can money provide for you emotionally? How interesting of a question is that?
I say we move on.
Yeah.
The reason is I think that's something that should be deep thought for everyone.
I think I agree. I've got you two questions to really ponder there in the middle of this. What emotionally can money do for you in a positive way? And then the other question is really, what is truly enough money? Those are good pondering questions. All right. Next segment here is, I guess I'm going to be brief because if you're listening to the show, you've kind of heard us play off onto things about mental health conditions. You're the most senior co-host of this show now, actually. This is your third rotation. So I don't know how much you've heard and whatnot. So I want to ask you, I've talked about mental health conditions. Do you know what I mean by that?
Talking about the clinical diagnosis, or
Yeah, essentially. Have you heard me talk about that? Have we discussed it?
Every episode.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I call this the tale of two tapes. I've said this on the show a few times. On the one side, it's biological functions drive how we feel. Genetics, dopamine, the brain, all that. On the other side, social and emotional realities. Life's relationships, life's points of stress, the daily grind, life experiences, right? Those things really totally combine together to create the whole picture. Well, people don't really think about this side of the equation a whole lot. And in partly because it's our professional job to help you understand that. Do you have OCD? Yes or no? Do you have bipolar disorder? Yes or no? Like, that's kind of our job. Do you have depression? It's come up into our vernacular. People talk about it around the world a lot more than we used to. But here's the point. If you do have a real specific, a biologically based experience with a mental health condition, that's very much going to affect how you experience money, right? Hoarding is a good example. Sometimes people will very much hoard money. It's a very big example of anxiety. Depression, if you're sad and isolating and not having energy, not having interests, not able to really fully focus and concentrate, getting tearful, having irritability, that's depression. How's that going to influence your behavior financially, your experience of money? This is a big, I guess I'm just going to give an honorable mention in this section to really highlight and understand. There's added components to your financial life when you're dealing with any of these numbers of these things. Have I made a good argument about that?
Yep.
And I think that's something that we need to consider when we're interacting with people and they're dealing with mental health conditions, or when they're evaluating themselves and what is my financial life with a mental health condition. Another real good one, bipolar. The spending sprees people get on. They just spend money like water because it's so impulsive. They're manic. They'll spend $500 on music in one day just because, right?
And then try to save after that.
Right? Yeah. Addictions, actually, with betting addictions and gambling addictions. That's a huge component of what happens with money. Now, you might be married to somebody who has gambling or debting addictions and never even realized it. You might have just thought, oh, they budget crapple. I mean, they're irresponsible. They're not. I've identified debting addictions with people in my work, and I'm willing to bet the spouse. I mean, you figure it out after a while, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But it takes a little while to kind of figure out, holy crap, you're not just stupid with money. You've got addiction. It's a wow, right? And it's I don't know. Let's move on though.
Okay.
So let's get a little bit. Oh, okay. I gotta mention the idea of Christmas gifts and money. When you talk about the mental health effects and what can money do, and then the big four with emotions. We are shot around the world with this podcast, an international show, and I'm not sure about other cultures and all of this type of thing. But I'd love to spend a minute here. If we could take any hit, any bite out of the experience that I think this time of year just drives people crazy. I know I've suffered with it for years. And it's parent guilt about money. You know what I mean by that?
Talking about like not buying your kids what you think you should, or trying to compare what you want to give to them to what you actually can give them, or something like that.
Every single year. My kids are a little bit older now, so I don't struggle with it as much. But honestly, like every single year, I have been last second getting more stuff at the store just because I feel like there needs to be more there. And I feel guilty in a lot of ways because there's not as much there as there should be. Yeah. Maybe I'm projecting out onto the world.
No, I think everybody thinks like that. I think that's completely normal for someone to think like that.
Parents get eat up by that. It's so, and I think that's probably pretty universal around the world, with any kind of gift exchanging and parents particularly.
But is that guilt worth going in more debt, and then it's going to cause more stress?
The answer is yes. People do it.
I know they do it.
They do it every single year. The bills come in January, and you come to my therapy office because stress is even more peaked. Yes, you're glad the holidays are done, but then the end of January and you get the credit card bills, man.
And you start paying them off.
Oh,
you start paying them down.
gosh.
Then around Thanksgiving, you start going back in debt.
It
happens.
I think it kills people. Mm-hmm. I think it just kills people. And the truth is, half the time the kids are playing for the toy that you wanted to get them for about a week. And then they move on to, they go back to the video game. Mm-hmm. I just hope that we can maybe get parents to think a little bit about it. I'm not saying don't buy your kids gifts. It's great. I'm buying mine this year gifts. Haven't yet, though. I'm way behind. Do it. Just be careful about what happens emotionally, and take it from parents that have long parented their kids into adulthood. You don't have to get bought into that emotional pain about parent guilt when it comes to, shame and whatnot. Okay. So, all right. Hopefully we did a little bit of thing there. There was so much to cover with this show. For the first time, I get to talk about part of what I call the trifecta. Love and logic for parenting relationships, emotion-focused therapy for marriages. Have you ever heard of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University material?
Other than I did see it down here below, but I don't know if I recall hearing you mention it before.
Dude, if you ever get a chance to go to a Dave Ramsey's
no,
class,
actually, I think you did mention it on another show that I was on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. Because I wanted to really spend some time and talk about it here, because it is the beginning of what I see as, the solutions for, how do we get out of this mired, stress-driven envy, shame, fear, and about money, right? It is such a cool approach that he kind of creates. And the thing that I like about what he does, basically he operates by like, okay, get a budget. Sit down with your spouse, get a budget, figure out what money do I have and what do I need to pay it and allot it for, and then what debts do I have. And he does his debt snowball. There's a lot of ways to deal with debt. Take the smallest debt and pay that off. What you don't have money for, you simply don't pay. It's under a line because you don't have any money left. You take your money at the top of the month, 100% of your money, and you just slot it in those slots. And you live by that. And it's empowering because a lot of people don't really operate that way. They don't, he calls it a zero balanced budget, right? 100% comes in, you allot 100% of where you're going to put your money. And if you think about it, the way that he begins to transition and shift you in thinking about your money, you tell your money where to go rather than you wonder, what the hell happened? I just got paid, it feels like a couple weeks ago, and I don't have money for this electric bill here. What are we going to do? Right? So it's empowering. It's actually something that I've kind of fallen into, for years now in operating that way. I'm kind of one of those weird people that actually knows down to the penny. I balance my checking account and all that, but it's worked well for me in some ways. But here's even more magic about the Dave Ramsey process with financial peace. He takes the emotion of money directly on. And I love it, the way that he does it. He deals with the shackles that debt creates. And he calls it that. Talks about it intently in his video programming. The shackles that debt creates. The burden that you carry. The process of budgeting and being in management control of your money takes that off. And you get emotional. And he talks a lot about the emotions off of you. And what develops into emotional freedom because you're lifted out of the debt cycles that we just go in and out of all of our life. And you ultimately work the program that he lays out to becoming completely debt-free. And I'm talking about your house too. Can you imagine what it's like to live without a house payment?
Be nice.
My next door neighbor's doing that. Now he's retired, but he got paid off before he retired.
A friend of mine's already done it at a very young age.
Right?
Very young age. He's a lot younger than me. He's already done it. I'm like, wow.
Oh, it's got to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I want that. I want to experience that. That is a little bit of a goal of mine personally. But when he's dealing with the money emotions, he also deals with the money emotions of a couple. And he actually identifies, whether he realizes it or not, perfectly in tandem with the abandonment and engulfment personalities that we develop and the behavior traits that we go by. And so EFT and the Financial Peace University matches perfectly. And he tells people that are in the abandonment role, he calls them free spirit or nerds, because I'm a nerd and I got down to the penny what things are. We're very forward about conversations. Shut up. Stop. Don't run over the other person when you're doing budgeting. And then he tells the engulfment people, who he calls free spirits, that just sort of, we spend, we do whatever. We don't need to talk about it. To sit down and have a conversation. And he deals with that by getting people together and developing their budget together. Here's a tip, simple Dave Ramsey financial peace tip. With your partner, get together and just create a budget. Whatever budget you might be able to create. That is a huge, huge piece that deals with a lot of the emotions that we've talked about tonight. Does that give a little bit of an encapsulation and insight into what we can do to get out of some of this shame, to get out of this envy, to get away from the fear, to let go of all the doubts that we have? Okay. Last segment here is on some of the things that my brainstorm kind of created, and also how do we deal with it. Okay. So be mindful about the simple question. Kind of goes with the question that we had in the middle of this show, right? Are my basic needs met? Okay? I don't care if you're in the Amazon. I mean, you might be in the Congo or down in the islands in the Caribbeans, or, in China somewhere, or Australia, maybe, Paris, France, wherever you might end up being. Are your basic needs met? Food, shelter, clothing, essentially. The fundamental things, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you ever hear of that in Psych 101? That basement level. Are those basement level met? Sometimes they're not, and that's a real problem. We have a lot of problems with homelessness and poverty and things around the world, that's for sure. But if you can answer that question, are my basic needs met? How far does that go along in quelling some of these angsts that we have about money?
Long way.
Right? Develop an attitude where money is just a tool. I think you have that attitude a little bit, just talking to you tonight. What does money mean to you? Well, it's a tool to manage things. It's a tool to get things that's kind of the way you started. Mm-hmm. That's a really healthy attitude. I guess I'm giving you a compliment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you look at it as a way to gain love or a way to have power or these types of things that a way to keep up with the Joneses, and I need more money so I can feel better. My happiness will improve if I have more money. Whoa, hold on a minute with all that, right? What we really want to do is begin to just really understand that it's just a tool. And, it's a tool that we have that we can make choices. I can help kids down the street. I can give Chris a Millennium Falcon so he won't have life trauma. Sorry. You should see the camera. You did. I went there. It's okay, Mom. It's a tool to provide for my family. It's a tool to clothe my family. It's a tool to have fun. It's a tool that enables me to do something that I enjoy. If it's just a tool and that's all it is, it's really just a currency, I think that takes a lot of the doubts, a lot of the fears, a lot of the shame out of the picture. So make it a tool rather than something that you're getting or something else.
Who doesn't like tools?
Huh?
Who doesn't like tools?
Who doesn't like tools? It's a good point. Anxiety, you would think is bad. You know what I thought in my brainstorm? Why can't we use the anxieties that we have naturally to curb some of the way that we spend or to get us in a better financial situation, right? Use that angst to put a check on yourself, to follow a budget or whatever have it may be. Anxiety is not all bad here. So anxiety can be a little bit of our friend when it comes to the terrible, painful, chaining debt effect that we can have. Debt's really, really bad. Self-awareness is a must, I feel like. I was thinking about, when people are trying to lose weight, that's another thing we do after Thanksgiving. I don't know what to do around the world if Thanksgiving is as much of a thing as it is here in the States, but we eat a lot.
Americans.
Americans eat a lot.
Americans eat.
We've got the turkey and the mashed potatoes and all the things that we eat. And a lot of people this time of year, especially New Year's Eve resolutions, OMG, we probably need to do a show on that, right? I want to lose weight this year. That's my goal. Well, a great way to lose weight is to really think about, why am I eating this food, right? I'm not a nutrition expert. I'm not a dietary expert. To look at me on the cameras, you'll figure that out. But the fact is, if you really take a moment to really process, what is my behavior for? I want pleasure with the hockey game. Okay, if you know that, that's fine. Ask yourself that question. That's the same thing with money. Why am I spending this money right now? What's the purpose in my behavior? And if you ask yourself that question, you'll go far into taking a bite out of some of these negative things like fear and shame and whatnot. Okay? What else do we got? Where am I at? Looking at patterns you have with money. Yeah. Patterns are important. I think what I was thinking there is, you know what your money tendencies are. You know how much money you spend on this and that, and kind of what your thoughts tend to be about, your budget and budgeting and your discussions and all that kind of thing. Just look at your patterns. You can look at your eating patterns using that example as well. Are you happy with your eating patterns or not? Do they bring you some concern with your nutrition or do they not? The same thing can be done with money. Just evaluate, spend time meditating, thinking, what are my financial patterns? and you can decide if you want to keep them or not. And then you get empowered when you make decisions. Okay, here's a big thing. You ever make a mistake with money?
Mm-hmm.
You ever forgiven yourself for that mistake that you made with money?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I think a lot of times people really, talking about that shame, this is huge. I spent that time on that segment trying to highlight the shameful effects that we have on money. I don't think people pay attention to, like, you know what? It's okay that you did that. You don't have to hold that against yourself.
It's like any
moving
mistake.
forward, right?
So everybody's going to make mistakes. Thing is, don't make it again.
And over and over again, look at your patterns again. Yeah. I feel like it sounds weird, but to forgive yourself of something. But that just goes really deep into yourself. I mean, when you're holding that against yourself over and over and over again, and then begin to identify personal characteristics like I don't handle money well, I don't deal with money well. I've literally heard people say that. You know, that I can't buy that. I don't believe that people are that bad about math, because a lot of it is simple math. I got $50. I need gas this week, and I need to go golfing. Wait a minute. I better buy $50 worth of gas. It's simple math.
Right.
Because if you don't know, golfing's kind of expensive. It's like $30 to go to a basic golf course. Right? Lose all that shame, dig into it, and honestly spend a little bit of time. You'll get emotional freedom from it if you forgive yourself. Be wary of the perceived need to make finances a private matter. Can I make that point any more dramatic with my voice tone? This is not a topic that has to be shuttered, hidden, avoided, shut down on. Like, it's okay to talk about money. Can we say that? It's really okay to talk about your finances. And if you do, you just might find that somebody's got some good ideas about your finances. So don't make it a private thing. It's a false belief that we have to have privacy about money to the level that we do. Work to change behavior you don't like. I use an example. You know, there was a period of time as a young man, I carried a lot of fear about money coming from, you know, some poverty and some tough times when I was young. And I was really afraid to spend it. I didn't like spending it. It made me...
That's not a bad thing, though.
Yeah, it was, because it took a lot of energy in me. I mean, it was like disruptive in my life. And so I actually looked at that behavior. I assessed it as something I didn't want to have anymore. And I went and blew money. I literally remember like taking like $100 and say, you know what? I don't even know what I'm going to spend this on. I am just going to go blow it. And I maybe bought some candy or took stuff. I would purposefully engage what I interpreted as blowing it on something to change the behavior. And I'll tell you, that took a big, that was big for me. It took a big chunk out of that fear and that crummy feeling that I would have about money. So identify behavior you don't like, go choose and do something different. It's a cool thing to play with. And lastly, combat envy with the knowledge that those who spend seemingly frivolously, they have everything they want, likely have debt. Right? That's kind of a bit of a truth. What do you see on the scales there? I feel like I've been blabbling on a little bit too much. What kind of debts do people have? Let's end with a little bit of like, my gosh, really?
Just call them out here.
Yeah.
Average debt in 2020, credit card, $5,315. Personal loan, $16,458. Auto loan, $19,703. Student loan, $38,792. HELOC, what's HELOC?
That's a home equity line of credit for a house.
Okay, $41,954. Mortgage, $208,185.
I was actually surprised that the credit card debt was only $5,300. People carry massive amounts of credit card debt.
Well, you got to think there's also other people who will not get a credit card for anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's probably what's bringing that down.
They refinance in their HELOC.
They use their HELOCs to refinance.
Yeah, that's why.
That's
what it is.
They do. They get high
Yeah.
HELOC loans and personal loans to pay stuff down and pay stuff off, and it's just a revolving door. People, deal with your budgets and bring your debts down so that you can have some emotional freedom. I know we went a little bit long on this one. I apologize for that. There was just more that I really wanted to get to because. And I hope you stuck with us through to the end here, because this is not a topic people really focus on. And if we've gotten a little bit of head space in your head during such a stressful time as the holidays can be. I'm glad that we did that. Closing thoughts, comments, questions, my friend. We probably need to get out of here. What do you?
Yeah, when you get out of here.
All right. Well, then, listen, have a great holiday season. We're along the way of enjoying Christmas. We've just got through Thanksgiving in the States. Hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday season. And this has hopefully given you a little bit of some heads up on some things you can do to take some of the pressures off that people might be feeling. So hope you have a great week, and we will see you guys soon.